Welcome to Public Safety Talk Radio, the podcast for all of our heroes in public safety, including law enforcement professionals, firefighters, EMTs, corrections officers, healthcare workers, and more. The show is produced by the POCUA and is founded upon its Soundness Initiative. This episode is sponsored by the Finest Service Organization, a provider of line-of-duty death loan protection through many of our POCUA institutions. Hi, I'm Ken Bader, your host for Public Safety Talk Radio, and I got a really fun guest. At least we were having fun for like the first 15 minutes before I pressed the record button. So we're going to try to have some fun with all of you out there listening, watching Public Safety Talk Radio. Who I have today is Dr. Donnie Hutchinson, and he's an expert on work-life balance for first responders. He's recognized as a top first responder work-life balance and self-care instructor, speaker, author, and coach who works with firefighters, law enforcement, and EMS. Dr. Donnie works with individuals and departments on self-care and work-life balance strategies to help them be effective at work and at home. And don't we all need that? Dr. Donnie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much, Ken. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. We're going to have some fun today. And I want to know, too, that's my first obvious question is, what does work-life balance look like for a first responder? We've talked about this subject for decades in a very general way, but what does it look like specifically for a first responder?
Great question. And you know what? The best way that I define work-life balance, and this is what I did in my research in my doctorate work, which is just a few years old, actually, because I got that a little later in life.
It's fresh. It's fresh. So that's good. My MBA is a little on the old side. It's in the 90s, but I still try to pull from it. So let's hear about your PhD.
You know what? Here's what I ask people. I define work-life balance in a question. The question is, are your daily behaviors in alignment with your priorities in life? Think about that for a second, though, right? Are your daily behaviors in alignment with our priorities in life? Because a lot of times, we'll say, oh, yeah, I want to be healthy. That's a priority in life. Mm-hmm. But, if you're not living healthy, if you're not exercising, especially, as first responders, the stress out there, right? It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
The amount of stress and the physical stress, mental stress, and all that stuff. But we know so well about, health and wellness. So what the research and where I'm a big believer, and I push this and my research showed it, is that the greater we can care for ourselves, the more effective we can be in our career and our family, with that. So it truly is. It's just about priorities in life. And, balance is not like some straight line, like you're just humming along and everything's peaceful. No,
I wish.
Yeah. It depends on, it ebbs and flows. Where can I manage the stress? And the whole thing is just, if we're always focusing on our priorities, part of it is that, sometimes we know we're going to go out of balance. I mean, shoot, I live a life like that sometimes, of knowing that, okay, I'm not going to get much sleep this week. I got to push for some deadlines or whatever it may be. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to go out of balance. But it's the key to it is that we just keep our eyes on it and start looking at, okay, I can push myself, but let's not push ourselves to where it gets destructive,
Yeah, it's interesting. A couple of discussions that I've had the privilege of having on Public Safety Talk Radio, and I'll paraphrase a little bit from a couple of experts, is in essence that, it's your responsibility if you're a first responder and you're serious about your career as a police officer, firefighter, EMS, whatever it is in public safety, that part of being this great professional is understanding what you need personally. For instance, I heard a fitness expert talk about the responsibility of a firefighter, to my words, to not be a fat bastard. he actually gave a story about, how a firefighter who was severely overweight ended up dying and putting his crew in, in a very bad situation. Yeah, and also, for instance, we've had Sean Wyman on the show who does Going Beyond the Call, and he talks about the need for you mentally as a police officer to be in the proper state of mind, to be at 100% when you go on the job. Because if you're dealing with the domestic violence situations, for instance, and you're only at 80%, that's a real dangerous situation, both for you and, the people that you're actually trying to help. Yeah. So this work-life balance concept, as you kind of explained it to me, it ties into that, at least the way that I see it, that it is about the job, but it's more than about the job. You want a good home life. Wouldn't want anybody, but it's also about, having a good home life so that when you get in the patrol car, when you get to the fire station, you're at 100%. Am I on point there, or am I crazy, or both?
You're absolutely on point. And hearing some of your word choice, now I know where I can go into this podcast. It's not rated like my podcast. Wow.
It's PG-13, so I cut out some stuff, but not everything.
No, you are completely right on track there. Is that, when we just look at statistics, right? Our general population in the United States, we have 78% of people are overweight / obese of the population. The firefighters, the latest statistic, and from the best researchers, they're saying it's 80% of firefighters are overweight / obese. And you're absolutely right. It's tough going into that fire. I mean, it's exhausting, and they're wearing their air, and if the more out of shape you are, the more you're sucking the air and everything like that. And you do create a risk, not only for yourself, but for others, the ones you're trying to save in the home, your brothers and sisters that are fighting that fire with you. And it's very well known. And the fire service, though, they're taking it very serious, this health and wellness. And there's a lot of great people out there, making great strides in this health and wellness, from the physical perspective, even to the mental health piece. And but that is exactly what I'm talking about. And I forget who there's someone that does some podcast, but I love this quote. And if I want to give them credit, but I can't remember their name. Right?
If it was poignant, it was probably on Public Safety Talk Radio from the host. But go ahead.
Probably was. The quote was, "Would you want you saving you?" I was like, man, that sums it up right there. Yeah, that sums it up. And you're right with law enforcement. You mentally, physically too. You never know when you're going to be in the fight of your life. That can happen. And but the mental piece, and for your partner, right? For yourself, your partner, for the people you're serving. And that's what I try to remind all first responders, is that they've taken an oath to serve and protect their communities, but oftentimes they forget that they and their families are a part of that community. We got to bring it back to some of the basics. And when we learn, that's why I talk about self-care. And when I talk about self-care, it's like 4 big buckets, if you will, 4 pillars. It's your physical care, your diet, your exercise, your sleep, preventive care. It's your psychological / emotional care, the mental health piece, and then social, and then spiritual wellness.
It sounds like a guy named Stephen Covey.
Yes, it does. It does. I read that when I first went to college, or probably right after college, and 7 Habits, and you could read it today,
and it still applies.
It just continues. And so it is. It's truly we have a culture in the United States of, I call it the Wall Street definition of success. It's just, man, you got to go after the money. It's all about money, power, and all that stuff. But, when we get to the end of life, you're not looking back at those things. You're looking back, wow, I wish I would have taken better care of myself. I wish I would have invested more in my family relationships, or, and all those kind of things, and that's where I really drive in my workshops. The focus that I do is I get folks to really reflect and identify where are they at in a current reality with their relationships and all their health and wellness and how they're doing at work. Then I take them over, Ken, to what I call the desired future. How would they like for things to be? And then I do this crazy thing to where we actually not just talk about it, but then we build a little project plan, right? How to get from point A to point B. And because I believe everything needs to be practical. You know, we got to have practicality, practical knowledge. Let's take some steps. You know, how do we get better on our health and wellness or mental health? And one of the areas that I love where I fit, and I call it my swim lane in this work-life balance through self-care that I do, is that I try to get things shored up for people, all the men and women that serve, so that they don't have that catastrophic event, or they don't have that failed marriage, or they don't have, you know, they haven't talked to their kids or whatever it might, you know, those strained relationships, and try to get them to shore up that health and wellness plus those family relationships. And we both know, and I think people, the listeners out there, we just inherently, we know it, that, man, if things are going great with our health and wellness and our family's just rocking the way it should, man, we're going to do our career. You know, we're going to go out there and get the job done in a healthier manner. And then it's like everyone wins. But for some reason, we get off track and we just have lost focus of some of those priorities in life that I call them.
Now, a word from one of the POCUA's proud business partners, OfficerPrivacy.com. OfficerPrivacy.com was founded by Pete James, a law enforcement professional with over 25 years of experience. Pete wanted to find a way to help law enforcement officers protect themselves and their families, so he formed a team to create a way to quickly identify and remove their information from certain sites. OfficerPrivacy.com is the result. This service is already offered through a select few of our POCUA organizations. As a listener of Public Safety Talk Radio, you can take advantage of a special offer from OfficerPrivacy.com. Go to OfficerPrivacy.com/POCUA, and when you sign up, you'll get 2 additional bonuses. In addition to removing your personal information from the top 30 people search sites, they will give you your first 2 months of monitoring free. This is a value of $39.98. In addition to that, you'll receive a cell phone privacy device, a $19.99 value. This prevents data from leaving your cell phone when you use public charging stations and is a must when traveling. So go to officerprivacy.com/POCUA today to take advantage of this offer and to protect your privacy. Organizations who are members of the POCUA and are interested in offering the service directly to their members, contact us at POCUA@btcinc.org. Agreed. You know, as you were speaking, my wife and I and a firefighter colleague that I know, we have this running joke that, you know, we watch 911 or 911 Lone Star, which is, aside from being, it is entertaining, but is basically a stupid show. Both of them. I mean, it's especially the one based out here in Los Angeles. You know, apparently those guys, you know, cover like a 150-mile radius, depending on where they're bouncing in this town. But you know, what's interesting to me is on some of these shows, they even reinforce an unfortunate stereotype. You know, at Lone Star, you know, the captain's divorced and has a problem with relationships. You know, in the other 911, you know, the captain is an alcoholic, and that's fine. I'm an alcoholic. I can understand that, but they're reinforcing some of these some of these stereotypes. And I even think on a deeper level, it's like, do we really want to do this? You know, can't we just show, you know, a police officer that's doing a good job, that has a wife and 4 kids that are actually happy? You know, because I know that's out there.
Absolutely, it's out there. I know it. I know you're absolutely right. It gets back to, I think it was the pre-show we were talking about positive psychology. It's like, hey, let's focus on who's doing things well and imitate that. You know?
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into work-life balance in the different professions, because I've heard this from a physical nature as well as a nutrition nature, that depending on the job, it's a different plan, as you might say. If you're a firefighter, you probably need to eat a little bit different in nutrition than a police officer. If you're a police officer, you probably need to train physically differently than, say, a firefighter. And I would assume that it is the same thing when it comes to work-life balance, that somebody that's working 24 on, 48 off, like a firefighter, needs a different work-life balance than, say, a police officer that's working, 5 days a week, midnight to 8 in the morning. So speak of that, the different professions and the work-life balance for each.
Yes. Well, if I go back to the definition, right, our daily behaviors in alignment with our priorities in life, as I share with people, it's like, I'm not here to tell you what your priorities ought to be, but I can tell you universally, health and wellness is always a top priority, and family is a top priority for everyone. I mean, that's just the way, we realize that. So, but for firefighters, the 24 on, some, it's the best thing in the world. Especially if they're not having runs throughout the night and they actually can get some sleep. My son's a firefighter just outside of Cincinnati, and he's also in paramedic school. So, and he's in the class, he's either in the firehouse, he's in the classroom, or he's in an emergency room department doing his clinicals, so I'm still getting on his butt because I haven't seen him in about 30 days. And I'm like, man, where's your work-life balance?
They teach this for a living. This should filter down some way.
No. So, but for the ones that have, they're up all night firefighters because they have a busy run schedule. I mean, they truly are going home exhausted, physically and mental exhaustion. And when they arrive at their house, there are people there that want them, their best energy, but they didn't sleep. And we know, they're human, right? We're irritable, we're edgy when we don't get sleep. That's just human nature. So there are some real challenges with that. And some challenges that, because they don't sleep during shifts, it really can affect their sleeping patterns all throughout the week. So true challenges, something that's very, very top of mind on trying to get some more research on, how do we get these men and women some sleep? Police officers, though, you're absolutely right. I mean, their exhaustion, energy, it can be as well, but the mental exhaustion, their situational awareness, I mean, they are always high keyed. I mean, always on the lookout. And that doesn't usually stop when they go off shift, right? So it's just that high keyed up nature that they are having. I mean, it's a protective mechanism, and that is very exhausting. So there are different struggles in the two different professions, yet very similar when it comes to, they are both driven to serve, and they oftentimes fail to recognize they're not serving themselves nor their families, sometimes not that well, to where, and that's where we're trying to educate to say, hey, the greater you take care of yourselves, the more effective you're going to be in all these other roles in your life. And so it's working. I mean, they get a lot of success stories, a lot of thank you emails, and life's changed people. It truly can change the way they look at how they go about their next phase of life, by just simply thinking about, man, what are my priorities? And I need to make some changes. Now, all this stuff's not that easy, right? I mean,
sounds easy.
It sounds, I know, but it's challenging, and I mean, it's just like, you talked about, alcoholism a little bit, is over drinking greater with first responders than the general population? Yes. And today's word, of course, is alcohol use disorder, is the term. But now I could go on another tangent about the word disorder. I'm not a believer in putting a D behind things, because I like more of it can be an injury, right?
Right.
We injure ourselves we don't think twice. We'll heal.
Mm-hmm.
We can heal. If we have a disorder,
now you're stuck
sort
with
of
it.
like, yeah. It's like, look, you've been labeled. So I don't believe in labeling like that. And I think it's personally, I think it's harmful. And I think there's research out there showing that it's harmful too, is that I think it's going after, hey, these things are injuries. And these are things that if we start becoming mindful about it and truly try to get some assistance and change some of our daily behaviors, before we know it, we can get back on track in a much better picture. So I think there's a lot of good stuff out there for help, and assistance and all of that. But I think part of it is just getting people to really step back and think, constantly being mindful of, hey, what are my priorities in life? How am I doing in all these different roles that we all have, right? How have I been with my spouse, and say, oh, maybe I need to focus on her a little bit or him.
Yeah.
But things like that, right? To where, hey, let's focus it a little bit and to get it back, running well, running smooth. So those are my thoughts on that pretty much, Ken.
Yeah. And they're good thoughts. It's interesting. I'm working with a small hospital right now, and they gave me the privilege to work with them on conflict management. And one of the first things I talked about is conflict avoidance. Not every, sometimes you do need conflict. Sometimes, in this scenario, if there's going to be a lesser or dangerous patient care, and there are two differing opinions, then maybe you do need conflict there. But if somebody didn't say hello to you in the hallway, and you go back to your office pissed off, do you really need to create a conflict for that? Especially to use, the Stephen Covey theory, the emotional bank account. If this person for years, person's been fine. He or she's done things for you. Maybe he's having a bad morning. Maybe he got in a car accident or something. If it's a small thing, is it really deserving of a conflict? And I think some of that too, and I try to explain this to some of my clients, is that even if you really are self-absorbed, even if it is truly about you, wouldn't you like to have less bullshit in your life? Right. So think about it. To use kind of your analogy, you've had a rough 24-hour shift. You haven't gotten any sleep. At the firehouse, you're coming home, and the kids are getting ready for school, and kid runs to see his dad or his mom coming off the shift and knocks over a whole bowl of cereal and milk goes all over the place. Your first instinct is probably, for Christ's sake, you can't watch where you're going. I just got home off a shift and now I got milk and cereal all over the place. To just say, hey, buddy, I'm really glad to see you, but come on, man. Really, make a joke of it and say, dude, just grab the paper towels and clean it up, man. Dad's going to get some sleep and then we'll have some cereal together. All right. Laugh at it and go away. Then it's a joke later on. Was it really, is it really worth the BS, to yell and have kids that are unhappy, have, a spouse that's now upset at you, to get, all in an uproar over a bowl of cereal? Sometimes, just for your own edification, the conflict avoidance, and just let it go, and to make a joke about it, it will help you in not having to deal with a domino effect of crap throughout the week, because everybody's, pissed off about so many different things, but it all stem from this one cereal bowl falling down off the table. You're laughing because I got something there. That's
right. I think you got a whole series on bowl of cereal. That's right.
Thank you for watching part 1 of Work-Life Balance for First Responders. Part 2 of Work-Life Balance for First Responders will air next Wednesday on Public Safety Talk Radio. Public Safety Talk Radio is produced by the POCUA. POCUA is a consortium of financial institutions serving law enforcement as well as other first responders and public safety professionals. To learn more about our association and to find one of our credit unions or service providers near you, go to www.policecreditunions.com. And always remember, if you aren't working with one of our POCUA credit unions, you're just banking with an institution that just so happens to serve first responders. As a public safety professional, you and your family deserve better. Find a POCUA credit union today.